Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rambling Through Everyday Life with Fran and Angela. My name is Fran, and I'm one of the co-hosts for this podcast. You are going to thoroughly love this week's episode number 82. We are talking all about different kinds of adventure with the Lord. Be sure and let us know what you think. We love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the show. Okay. Hello, everybody. Rambling Through Everyday Life with Fran and Angela. Somebody yesterday, golly, I cannot remember who it was. This is a shout out to Avery Lopez. Avery Lopez was a student. She graduated from Union. She worked in our office for 3 years. Whenever Avery walked into the room and she would see somebody, that she knew, she would sing their name. So if she walked into the room and she saw you, she would say, Angela Snyder. Well, we've all picked up on that. So we now sing our sentences. So all that to say, whatever it was that I just said, the very first sentence that came out of my mouth, when we hit record, I thought, Avery Lopez has taught me to sing my sentences.
Life is a musical.
Life is a musical. My gosh, y'all, I'm sorry.
Rambling the musical.
Okay, well, here we are, people. Here we are.
We are in sweatshirts.
Yeah. Well, fall came last week.
Fall finally is here.
Well, for a minute, and then it's kind of warmed back up. But this week's weather forecast looks lovely. I just did it again.
You did.
Lovely.
We're going to sing this episode. Well, it has been a big weekend for both of us. I told you when I pulled up, I look like I've been on the road all day, and I smell like Chex Mix. So there you have it. We just got off the road, like literally minutes before I walked in. We both had a family weekend.
I think every college in America just had parents' weekend, family weekend. It all hits at the same time.
There's a reason.
By design, somebody once said that it's so many days out from when you dropped your child off at school when they moved back to college, and so this is the natural time when you're supposed to see your family again. It's not too far away. It wasn't too close. However many weeks have gone by, that's the reason why they're all falling on the same weekend. Some psychologists said somewhere this is the time you're supposed to do it.
Well, they know. They know their stuff. I will say, Kaylee's a sophomore now, and it's still, every time we leave her again, we get emotional.
Yes.
We adjust, and then we readjust, and then I called her a few minutes before I walked in here, and I said, I'm just trying to transition back to not being with you.
I know.
It just took us a minute.
Yeah, well, you had her for 48 hours.
I know. It was so much fun.
So much fun. What was the highlight of the weekend for you at Samford?
We got to go to, she's living in the Cayo house.
I can't imagine.
And that is so much fun for them. So we had a breakfast there. We took Cole clothes shopping. And
This is the highlight of your weekend.
He did not protest. Well, it's just one of those, like, when all of a sudden you've got a son who's secretly okay with clothes shopping.
They love it and hate it.
He's a little concerned about his appearance lately. And it was cute to hear their conversation between Kaylee and Cole. And then we went to dinner. Her birthday is in a couple of weeks, and we never see her on her birthday anymore.
No.
Because she's doing big, important college things. So one of our family traditions for birthday is they get to pick their dessert. Everybody loves my Aunt Sylvia's banana pudding, so I make it for all the occasions.
Can you share the recipe with us?
Absolutely. It's so easy, but it's amazing. And we went to Target late last night and got all the things, went back to the Cayo house. In their little bitty kitchen, I made her the birthday banana pudding.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So I thought, you deserve your birthday dessert.
Absolutely.
Even though Mama won't be here.
That's so precious.
So that was kind of fun. She kind of was like, can we really do this? I was like, I don't know, but we're doing it.
Yeah.
So here we are.
What are they going to do? I'm the mother.
That's right. We'll feed them. That's what we'll do. I felt very parental. Whipping something up in the kitchen.
That's right. I love that. Have some banana pudding. Be quiet.
Well, you had a VIP guest on campus for your family weekend here at Union.
We did. We're celebrating our bicentennial, so it's Union's 200th birthday.
That is crazy.
We are the oldest school in connected to the Southern Baptist Convention. We're the oldest school. And so 200 years is a long time.
That is a very long time.
Yeah.
Happy
bicentennial.
Birthday.
Happy
Yes.
bicentennial. So the whole weekend was just a lot of things going on. There's a big dinner downtown, lots of things on Saturday. We had a preview day, and then we ended with all the fun things that we do on the Great Lawn. And our BFF, David Crowder, came.
We love him.
I mean, let's just for a minute reminisce about the fact that he played in your backyard.
Isn't that? And we stalked him a little.
2015, he was in your barn.
And when his bus pulled up, the ducks, we have the dumbest ducks. They just stopped in the middle of the road, and David Crowder's bus driver had to get out of the bus and shoo the ducks along. And then you and I and Christy Treadway decided we were going to stand in the barn until he came out of the bathroom.
Yeah, that wasn't creepy.
No, that's not at all creepy. And then we found out later that he could see us waiting on him, so he just waited forever. I don't blame him.
I think, yeah, for real, we're so sorry. We're so sorry, Crowder.
We've matured a little since then. A
little bit. But it is kind of like, you would just love to talk to them. Like, I'm sure they're like, listen, lady, I don't want to talk to you. But I think I remember correctly, because in your kitchen, there was food in there, and there was stuff in the refrigerator. I think he's a Dr. Pepper guy.
He is.
So
he is. And just so normal.
Yeah,
he was
just a
so
really
kind.
Neat guy, even though he wouldn't talk to us.
Well, he's got a great sense of humor. I think he was just it was like part of the banter. He was playing hard to get a little bit.
So on Friday, or whatever day, they, all that, what's his name? Jenkins from
Phil and Mark
from
Internally Sound.
Yes. So they're out there, setting up the massive stage and screens and all that goes on with that. And I was like, what if I just sat out here? Because then later in the, his buses were here.
His sound check. You could have been the sound check technician.
Listen, Luke McCormack, one of our enrollment counselors in our office, he swore he saw him walking through the parking lot.
He probably did. Do you know they told us before they came that we would have to kind of keep an eye on him because he was prone to wander?
Well, then I guarantee you it was him.
We have a lot of land, and they said he might just wander into the woods and get lost, so keep an eye on him.
Well, dang it all. So I was prepared to say, do you remember me from 2015 when I stalked you in the bathroom at the barn?
Hey, we've got a picture to prove it.
He doesn't change either. He doesn't age. He looks the exact same.
And he is such an incredible performer, but just such a normal guy.
Just a normal guy. And then his social media this morning said, come to Passion City Church and we'll lead you in worship.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, you just left Jackson, Tennessee at whatever time and drove all night to Atlanta. And
I love that.
I know.
I love that.
Anyway, fun weekend, everybody.
Okay, speaking of driving all over, we have to talk about this volleyball team for a minute.
Oh, my gosh.
The Union University Lady Bulldogs volleyball team, for the first time, they are 5-0 in conference. But this is what I love the most. This is what I want to talk about for a minute. They chose years ago, this is my 5th year with them as their character coach. They chose, it was
That's
prior.
Crazy because it seems like it's just been like 3.
Doesn't it? And I'm a volunteer. I love it so much. It's through FCA. And if you're listening and you need a younger college age friend, we're always telling y'all how much we love our college friends. FCA has opportunities for everybody. We need more volunteers. We wish every team could have a volunteer character coach. But we have worked so intentionally with them on their core values. They chose their core values of faith, family, grit, and gratitude. And what we've done just through the years is ask them some of the questions that you and I talk about. What's the condition of your heart? What's the Lord teaching you? Are you spending time with the Lord right now? If not, what's holding you back? How can you improve? What accountability do you need? And I told them Wednesday, I said, you know what? You're in a busy season. Do not be embarrassed. Do not give the answers that you think you're expected to give. But I prayed about it and intentionally put them in groups of 2 or 3. I had the Holy Spirit has just moved in this team in more ways than we have time to talk about. But the quick version is I was getting text after text after text on Friday. They're on a 9-hour bus trip to Georgia. They had this intentional time. They put away their phones, and for an hour, they talked about these questions. It was amazing, the bonds that formed. Every single one of the messages I got had the same underlying theme of I feel seen, I feel valued, I feel cared about, I feel like I'm not alone in this. Somebody understands my struggle. Jesus loves me in spite of or because of or whatever.
Right.
Jesus is better than all of it. Jesus is pursuing all of these ladies, and they are reminding each other of that. They are calling out the lies that they're hearing in each other. You know, if they say, you know, well, I'm not good enough, that's an ongoing struggle for all of us. I don't measure up. I'm not worthy. I don't belong. I'm all alone. And to hear them calling that out. And listen, these 2 games that they were on the road were tough games. You and I were texting back and forth. They would get down. They were losing. And mentally, that's where the grit comes in. Are you going to push through, persevere, overcome, or quit? They came back and won these come-from-behind games in their conference.
They should not have probably won.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And they pulled together. And I believe in all my heart the Lord is showing them, you keep fighting for each other on and off that court. Yes, they're here because of volleyball.
Right.
And volleyball's the tool that got a lot of them on this campus.
Right.
But these relationships are so special and so sacred, and God's using every bit of it.
We were talking this morning in... you know how I think we've talked about it in the podcast before about Fellowship University that we're doing through our church. And we were talking this morning about we're in Mark. We're thankfully spending some weeks in Mark.
Jesus has arrived.
Jesus has arrived. Praise God. But we were talking about discipleship. And, you know, what does discipleship mean? And I thought about the volleyball girls because I made some comment, and I think as I said it, I was thinking about them. It doesn't matter your age, but what they're learning right now is messy discipleship. That if we're willing to be honest with one another and vulnerable, and what may feel like a weird question, or I'm supposed to know this, or I'm questioning something, or I'm confused about something, that never changes. As we age, I have very similar questions. It may not be that question. It could be. It doesn't matter. But just the fact that you have shown them space and ways to be honest and vulnerable with one another, especially as females, that is such a gift. And I feel like if you can do it one time in a safe place with a safe person, then you're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you have to learn, and if it lands right and works right, then it is good. Now, there are plenty of times when it doesn't go well.
Right.
But for them, they're learning what discipleship means, and that's what we're all called to do, is to come alongside one another and disciple each other.
Well, and I hope people listening and watching will take down these questions and learn from this and ask the people around you, or pray about a person or two to have these kind of conversations with. Because, Fran, I learned how to do this from you. Like, you modeled this for me with college girls, like how to do this with the college group that you were pouring into. And it's just, you know, that question, what's the condition of your heart? I don't remember who asked you that.
Yeah, I don't either.
But it started this beautiful chain reaction, and it is truly discipleship. And because of how I've seen it play out, at our last FCA meeting, I shared that with our leadership board. And I said, I want y'all to hear what's going on with this team, the bonds that they're forming. So Barry Cox, who's our director, said, you know, that reminds me, he said, years ago, we put all these names in a hat with a public school, high school boys football team. And they were struggling. Inner city, struggling team. Morale was low. They just really needed, Barry said, I was just praying for God to just show me how to connect this team. So he drew a name out, and he said, I want all of y'all to say something positive about this guy. And he said at first it was goofy, it was awkward, it was weird. But he said it became something they loved so much. Because think about how boys interact.
Yeah.
They're ripping each other, they're roasting each other. And a lot of these guys didn't have a father figure, or they had a father that was really rough on them. And he said it got to where for weeks they would say, hey, let's do that game. They would bring him the hat and
That's
say, here,
awesome.
put our names in here and pick one. Pick mine.
That's
let
awesome.
me have a turn today.
That's awesome.
So what it did is, like, this conversation kind of resurrected that. So another FCA character coach has a team right now that is struggling. And the next day he went to that team locally and implemented this, and walls crumbled. these guys are pulling
So
together. So
good.
it's the most beautiful. The Lord is using this. So if y'all are listening and you've got anybody younger than you or even older than you, and you can have some of these conversations and also just call out the good you see. We can't assume that people know
Right.
the good in them.
Right. No. Well, and even, I mean, let's just be honest. Even if you're like, even if, I mean, you do know, you do know you're a good attorney, but even you still need that reminder of, Angela, you're competent, you're capable, you are smart. You need to be told those things.
Well, because as soon as I feel like, to the outside world, I'm a good attorney, tomorrow I may have a really bad day and start from ground zero.
You don't feel so good no more.
That's right. Listen, I'm one bad Monday away from needing affirmation all over again.
Oh, that's so great.
But those questions are really we can share those too on social media, just the questions to ask. But we have I was thinking back on the month. We're coming up on the end of September.
I know. What in the world?
There has been a lot of life that we've lived in September that we've not even talked about yet.
What are we about to talk about?
We've got to go all the way back.
What's happened?
We've got to go all the way back to Labor Day weekend, which seems like 5 years ago.
Oh, that does seem like 5 years ago.
You and Christy Treadway had quite the adventure. This time you did not go to jail.
No, we did not go to jail.
We prayed specifically that you would not go to jail in Belize. Good job, Fran. Thank you, Lord.
Listen, it was so much fun. I will give the short version.
We have to have context.
But several years ago, myself and Christy and Robin, we started a nonprofit ministry for girls that was called the Heart of Whimsy, still called the Heart of Whimsy. And whimsy is essentially, it does have a substance through a doll and a book, but it's this teaching, it's this conversation that your life matters, that you have value, and that you are important to this world, regardless of where you are, and all the things that God's Word says about that. We did not have that growing up. And so it's just, it's part of that messy part of your life that becomes your message that we've all heard many times. And so we started this nonprofit. The dolls are made in Belize. Well, some things happened. We all know that COVID hit in 2020. And so because of COVID, because of every country's restrictions with travel, and if you come to Belize to get these dolls, well, then you're going to have to stay here for 900 days before you can go back. And nobody had time for that. So mission trips weren't happening, period. But people that we knew that were also going to Belize, nobody was going to Belize. So COVID came in 2020.
And am I remembering correctly that you had to go pick up the dolls because it's too expensive to ship them?
Yes, originally, yes.
Is that how that started?
Yes, and plus we just ended up finding people that were going down there. Sherry couples from Love and Truth, they would go down 1 or 2 times a year. Plus, at our previous church, we have switched churches. A lot of you all know that. Our missions pastor and his wife would travel down there, so they would bring the dolls back. But COVID, changing churches, our missions pastor friend, he died of COVID. So much happened in a short amount of time. I mean, what year is it? It's 2022. I'm like, wait, what year is it? So in 2 years' time, a lot has happened, and those dolls have been stuck.
They have been stuck in Belize.
Stuck in Belize.
How many? How many dolls are we talking?
A few hundred. A lot.
That's a lot.
A lot.
That's a lot of whimsy.
So poor Miss Rosa, who makes these dolls for us, I mean, can you just imagine, I'm sure at some point she was like, I'm running out of room. I need you all to come get your dolls.
Come get your babies.
Yeah, come get your babies.
We'll have to put pictures of all this up.
We will.
For sure.
So Christy said, well, let's just fly down there.
That's such a Christy thing to say.
Let's just go down there and let's just get the dolls. Well, Robin's got a daughter getting married, so she didn't need to take the time to go. So over Labor Day weekend, Christy and I literally hopped on a plane, flew down to Belize, stayed for 36 hours, got the dolls, saw Miss Rosa again. able to spend time with Miss Rosa as well as Alyssa, who was always the best way to describe Alyssa and her role in this ministry is she was our middleman, our business person that, like, if we needed supplies, she would go buy them for us. And if Miss Rosa needed things to make the dolls, the material, the fabric, the thread, like all the things.
Can I ask a dumb question? I've never been to another country, really. Not like this.
Right.
I've been to Canada on vacation. That's it. Okay, so, like, do they have a Hobby Lobby? Like, where do you go?
No, yeah.
Not a Hobby Lobby, but, where do you go?
Right. When the very first time we went down to Belize to teach, at the time, was 3 ladies how to do this. That's the time that we got, I'm using air quotes, thrown in jail. That's another story for another day.
We've got to tell that story later.
Because it's so phenomenal. But
you should travel with an attorney.
Listen, just come travel with us, because I can promise you we are going to have an adventure with the Lord. It is hard and fun and funny doing God's work. So when we went down there to Belize to figure out, what kind of material do you have that's comparable to the prototype that Robin made in the United States? Like, it's not an even for even kind of trade. So when we go down to Belize, I mean, that's literally what we're asking. But we had also been to other countries before, so we knew that nothing's the same. But it was like, we need the equivalent of a Hobby Lobby. Well, there is no equivalent. Really, you would go to one store to get this, another store to get this, another store to get this.
It's so daunting.
Oh, it is. It's overwhelming. And that's why Alyssa was so important, because she could help us. Otherwise, you're just like, I don't know.
It's like a contractor for a house.
Oh, for sure it is. Yeah. So to spend time, it was just very sweet. Like, I was very tender to what we were doing, and the fact that 6 or 7 years have gone by since we just began this. And Miss Rosa's made no telling how many dolls. We would essentially take these dolls to Kenya when we would go on mission trips and take them into the classroom. And that was their visual. That whimsy comes from the word whimsical, that you are exactly how God made you to be. Don't try to be like anyone else. You be who the Lord made you to be. You're perfect just as He made you. And so anyway, it was just a really sweet time, but we got the dolls. We had to buy 2 suitcases. I can't even explain what that process was like, because again, it's just this random store on the side of the road that you're like, I need 2 suitcases. And it's not American money, and you're just glad to have Alyssa there helping us. And anyway, we ate great food. Oh my gosh, we ate great food.
What was the name of the place?
Don't know.
You sent the best picture. We'll have to put that in stories.
We'll have to put that in stories. Because here's the thing. Anybody else, you would have looked at that place and said, oh, you cannot pay me $1 million to go eat there. Because it was legit side of the road, right off the airport in Belize City.
Yeah.
And it was the best food I've ever had. It was the best barbecue chicken I'd ever had. But anyway, so we got the dolls, we got the suitcases, got them loaded up. We spent the night. The next morning, we loaded up, drove back to the airport. I mean, literally, we spent one night.
Whirlwind.
We were delayed. Our flight was delayed getting out of Belize City to Houston. And we didn't have a ton of time in Houston. And Christy looked at me on the airplane at one point, and she goes, I really wasn't thinking about the fact that, when you're coming from another country, you've got to get your luggage, you've got to go through customs, you've got to go back through security. Like, it's just, it's difficult. Takes some time. So we were like, okay, well, it's going to be fine. I mean, good grief. What's the worst thing that can happen? And so we are running off that plane to baggage to the carousel to get these 2 suitcases, running like straight out of the movie. We've got a flight. I mean, we had 45 minutes to do the whole thing. Get the luggage, go through customs, back through security, get to the gate, 45 minutes. I mean, anybody that's traveled would tell you there's no way.
It's stressful.
There's no way you're going to make it. But we were very optimistic. So we're standing there waiting on luggage, and Christy goes, just go on and go. You go ahead of me, and then if you get through the other side and you see that we're not going to make it, well, then just text me, and I'll just slow down. So I am booking it. I'm, the people, I'm like, excuse me, I'm trying to catch a flight. And they're like, so what? We don't care, lady. Everybody's trying to catch a flight. And so I get through, I get to customs, and that's where you show your passport. And
I've never been through customs.
Oh, you haven't?
Never.
Okay. It's very intimidating.
Well, we did in Canada, but it was
it's
easy.
Different.
The guy was an Alabama fan and liked Cole's shirt,
right.
So we were good.
Even, it depends. I have been through customs on American soil and other country soil. Well, it's meant to intimidate you. And so, which it should, it should be, it should be a little scary. So the lady, it's a female, and I've got my passport, and she says, where have you been? And I said, Belize. And she said, how long were you there? And I knew in that moment, I thought, she's not going to like my answer. She's going to think, why were you only there for 36 hours?
You're drug smuggling in Whimsy Doll.
Yeah.
Except you're not.
Well, I mean, we love Miss Rosa, but we're not 100% sure that she didn't, we don't know.
There's some trust and some faith involved.
Yes, absolutely there is. So she said, how long were you there? And I said, 36 hours. And they ask you the same questions. So I knew the questions that were going to be asked of me. We've been taught and trained well how to answer the questions. Always tell the truth, but just answer the question. Don't go on and on and on and on. Just answer the question, tell the truth. So she said, how long have you been there? 36 hours. Then she says, why were you there? And for some reason in that moment, I got scared and I lied. Well, let's say I didn't lie. I didn't have my answer, my honest answer.
What happened?
I said, well, I went to see a friend.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but that's not really the right answer.
Okay.
Because if the dolls were with me, because you have to bring your luggage back through, then it'd have been like, well, why do you have that big old suitcase for 36 hours to see your friend? You
My
see what I'm
friend
saying?
gave me lots of toys. She is Santa.
Gosh.
So what happened?
So she just looked at me, and I looked at her and smiled, and she goes, okay, you're free to go. And I was like, oh, my gosh. Because we have been pulled over. We have been kind of, set off to the side and asked questions. And there's just not a whole lot in our mission trip, international travel, that we had not experienced. So nothing scares me. I just knew in that moment, you idiot, what are you doing? So then I get through, I'm flying to the gate, and as soon as when you hit the gate, and there's nobody sitting there. And so the two gate agents are at the gate, and I said, has the plane already left? And she said, we just closed the door, but we'll let you on. And I said, well, my friend is right behind me. She just came through security, and they said, ma'am, I'm sorry, we can't wait. And so then at that point, we've missed our flight. So now we're in a rebooking situation.
Oh, Fran.
And so then Christy comes flying down. She's got the two suitcases of dolls, they're back going to an airplane. She's gone through baggage again. And she just was like, no. And we both just kind of wanted to cry and cuss at the same time. And so then the gate agent helped us rebook. Well, the airline had already rebooked us for a flight first thing Monday morning, the holiday, Labor Day, first thing Monday morning. But we were trying to get home that night. So she said, well, actually, we can get you to Nashville tonight. But keep in mind, y'all, I didn't tell you this, we flew out of Memphis. So my car is in Memphis.
Oh, my goodness.
And so she says, we'll get you to Nashville. And we're like, okay, well, we'll do it. We had no idea how we were going to get from Nashville to Jackson. Not a clue. Not a clue. We were like, well, we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. And so we sat at a restaurant and hailed some food and figured out how in the world we were going to get from Nashville to Jackson. So what's so crazy, because of all the things that were happening, those dolls, the very reason why we went down there, never made it back with us.
Oh my goodness.
Where
where
arrived,
are the dolls?
They arrived, like one suitcase came a few days later, the next suitcase came
Oh my goodness.
a week or so later. But what an adventure. It was so much fun, y'all. It's just, I'm telling you, the bottom line in all of this is that I've said, you've heard me say this a million times, the Lord has so much more for us outside of just showing up and doing the same thing 365 days a year. And we just have to be open to his adventures and being about his work that he has for us.
Did y'all give away some dolls on the trip? Did I remember that? Tell about that.
We had bought the suitcases, put the dolls, which were just stacked up in the back. They're kind of in these big bags. So we opened up the back of Alyssa's car, putting the dolls in the suitcases, and this mom and her two daughters came by and they were like, Are you selling these dolls? And we said, no, whatever we said, no, we're getting them, we're taking them back to the United States. And then I was like, oh my gosh, take them, just take two dolls. And the things that we take for granted because we just have access, and we live in a world, in a country where we can buy things. And this is a place where they can't. And so the fact that we handed them those two girls, those two dolls, was just precious and priceless. And we told Miss Rosa, we said, Miss Rosa, you need to make Whimsy and sell her. Like we don't listen. The purpose is not to have some, I don't even know what you would call it, but some, right over her. Like, no, it's just to share a message, to share the gospel through a doll. Miss Rosa, if you want to make Whimsy and sell her to bring yourself some income, because we pay her, we give her a salary to make these dolls for us, but it's just, it all is in perspective of just how the Lord wants to use us. Never gets old.
Never gets old.
Yeah.
And it never looks the same.
No, never looks the same. And it's beautiful and fun. Everybody, whatever it is the Lord's asking you to do it.
I love that so much.
Okay.
I love that you got to give away dolls in the midst of bringing home the dolls.
Yeah. And I know. Yeah.
It's just sweet.
It is.
It's so
precious.
sweet. Well, I missed a lot of those details because I was on a different kind of a trip.
Yes, you were.
I had a security encounter. They pulled me aside for the first time and looked at me like I was suspicious, and I started sweating buckets. I was like, well, and then I looked guilty. And I've been pulled over I don't know how many times for having too many snacks in my carry-on. One time we traveled, well, it was when we went to Canada. We went to Banff and Jasper, and I had a whole carry-on full of snacks. And my whole family mocked and ridiculed me because I got hung up in security because it was a carry-on. And they were like, do you think there's no food in Canada? Like, what is the problem? I don't know.
Well, what if they didn't have my kind of snacks?
Well, I had never traveled internationally before, and food is my comfort. That's all I know to say.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Do not take my snacks.
So when they pull me aside, and we're like TSA pre-check, it's usually no big deal. And she starts, with my palms and all this stuff. And I'm like, so help me. If this is a body cavity search, I'm not going on this trip. We'll just go right back home. But eventually it was fine. And it didn't go any further than the palms of my hands. That is stressful.
It's just all very scary.
I'm like getting all worked up thinking about it again.
Listen, it's just funny. They're meant to kind of intimidate you and make you sweaty and nervous. And it works.
It worked.
Every time it works because it's just like they're trained to don't smile at them. Don't be nice.
Yes.
Ask them about their snacks.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. So Karl and I went to Alaska for our 25th anniversary, and we left the same day that you did. But one of us flew out of Memphis. You flew out of Memphis, and we flew out of Nashville, and we had all these airport adventures. But we, I just want to talk a few minutes about it because it was so amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
Listen, I've never been to Canada or Alaska, and I want to go.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
And listen, people, Angela is if you want to go to Canada, Alaska, and what's the other place that you went? Jackson Hole?
Oh, yeah.
If you want to go to any of those places, you need to contact Angela, and she's going to tell you your itinerary.
Yes. And I don't make money off of that.
Yeah.
This is not
But
even
you're good at
This
it.
is not even my side hustle. This is my stress relief.
You are good at it.
Trip itineraries are my jam.
Mm-hmm.
And I read this quote from William Shakespeare. I have to share this because I wrote it down. I love it so much. I like this place and could willingly waste my time in it. How fun is that?
Yep, for
That
sure.
is so fun. Okay, so we flew from Nashville to Seattle and then Seattle to Anchorage and got on a train. I've never ridden a train in my life. And it was the train with the glass dome on top, and it was just amazing. They served us a meal, and it was kind of, well, it turned out to be fun. At first, we were kind of, I don't know if anxious is the right word. We didn't have a whole lot of energy to make friends, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, you're going to have to eat dinner with another couple, and we're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to make small talk.
We don't speak English.
I can be that's what I should have done. We can be extroverted, or we can be, not anyway. So it turned out to be fantastic because the couples that we met, we didn't all have the same itinerary, but we kept bumping into each other at different points in the journey. And we were the youngest ones there.
Oh, wow.
And it was so much fun because all these older couples had twice the energy we had.
Why is that?
Because they're retired.
I guess. It's not fair.
They were so wise. They were so fun. They were so funny. They had boundless energy. Everybody was older than us, and we had cheesecake every night. It was like the Golden Girls' big adventure. So it was a slower pace. It was very relaxed. We had just enough time in each city. But we got to see things that the Lord has created that I have never seen in my life. Never thought I would see in my life. We went to, the first stop was Seward. And it is on the water. It's where a lot of the cruise ships pull in and have the excursions. We saw bald eagles. We saw orca whales. We saw puffins. We saw seals.
A puffin?
A puffin. It's like, remember the puffin cereal?
Oh, yeah.
Years ago, they're real colorful.
Yeah.
They're just swimming around like ducks, just right there.
Okay.
We saw mountain goats. We saw sea otters. These little sea otters they're mammals, but they don't have blubber. So they were floating on their backs with their hands and their feet out of the water to stay warm.
Just precious.
They were so precious. And they're just chilling. They're just the most chill, like you're just riding in the boat, and then you see these little...
And that's the kind of thing too, which I can't remember what it was, but there's something that y'all saw that caught your attention that you would have missed.
The pillow rocks.
The pillow rocks. Okay, but all of this in like God's the physical world of animals and His landscape and the way the world works and stuff. You're just like, that's something else.
Yes.
Like, how fun and creative of Him to think through every single type of animal, where they're going to live, the fact that they don't have blubber, and the fact that that's how they're going to stay warm. Like, that's just so beautiful to me.
We heard in the sermon this morning, like, God is so extravagant and just lavishes us with so much. But the more extravagant He is, the more He has to give. Like, not only does it not run out, it just fuels itself. But I was telling you, you're riding down, and if the captain had not pointed this out, I never would have noticed it. The first day, we didn't have anything planned, so I found this little boat. It looked terrible and it smelled worse. It was this they called it a water taxi. It was this little bitty boat. This guy was from Argentina.
Oh, it's so great. That's not scary.
Right. Came to Alaska 20 years ago to work for the summer and loved it and never went back home.
That's awesome.
So he picks us up, and he normally shuttles people to go stay and camp for 3 days in the middle of the woods with the grizzly bears. And I can't get my mind around that. But he just took us. We just paid him by the hour to just drive us around to see some things, and I had this playful little conversation with the Lord, and I said, Lord, I know that I love you and you love me, and not one thing about my salvation or our relationship hinges on any of this. I'm not even asking if you're real, give me a sign. However, Fran has taught me to ask for big fun surprises, and it would be really fun if we could see some orca whales today.
Golly.
Not 2 minutes later, there's an orca whale just swimming right beside the boat.
I would have died right then and there.
It was amazing.
Did you scream? Are you hitting the driver like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh?
I just froze because it was like the Lord going, okay, are you going to give me the glory I deserve in this moment? Don't lose sight of the fact that we just had this fun little conversation about this.
Right.
And if I had never seen a whale, I know God's real.
Oh, I know. That's right.
And I didn't feel wrong saying, it was just our little fun conversation. But the captain, the thing he pointed out about the rocks, he was like, you notice as we, have been a mile past this whole shore with the rocks on either side, they all look the same. And then all of a sudden the rock changes. And then the rock changes, different sediment and things. I did not pay enough attention in earth science to know all these words. But then he called them pillow rocks. He was like, and he was so fascinated. He said, look at how these rocks look like pillows. And I'm just, and I immediately said, well, if that's not just like God to just make things, and then it kind of turned into I don't know if he's a believer. I don't know where he stands, but it was sweet to be able to express the awe and the majesty of the creation, because we saw the animals were phenomenal, but even in the rocks, God is infinitely creative, and it blew my mind. So we see all these. It was Resurrection Bay, which I thought was really cool. It was discovered on Easter Sunday.
Oh wow!
So that it was named after that. So we had we saw a black bear. My husband pulled up beside this bear on the edge of the woods with me like 10 feet from the bear. Didn't pull up on his side.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like my anniversary gift or what, but I was very, very close to a black bear. But we went back to Resurrection Bay the next day, and they said on Easter Sunday morning they found protection in those waters when it was found. That it just was amazing. But we saw more orcas and little porpoise and the sea lions and the otters, and it's only accessible by boat in this national park, the Kenai Fjords Park. And my husband was really quick to point out the fact that he told me I would get laughed at if I wore my parka because it was 60 degrees when we left the hotel.
However,
when we by the time we got to the glacier,
you were who's laughing now?
It was 32, and I had on his coat on top of my own jacket. So Karl was a little cold, and that's just fine. He deserved it.
Do you know that there is Alaska, you kind of feel sorry for Alaska because it's just up there and far away. Like it's not an easy place. It's not like it's right smack in the middle of the United States and everybody can go.
I think they prefer it that way.
Probably so.
Our friend said, I love Tennessee, but it feels like the Lord spent a little more time on Alaska.
Yeah.
Because it's
for
just
sure.
so beautiful. But Alaska is so different in different places because like that was day 1 and day 2, but then we went into Talkeetna. We went salmon fishing. Do you know they have one thing that you're not allowed to bring on the boat
I have no
fish?
idea.
Bananas.
Never would have guessed that.
And it is like plastered all over everywhere. Do not bring bananas.
Why?
Well, I'm thinking practically, like, are the banana peels dangerous? Is this litter? What's going on? There's some kind of old wives' tale that goes back to something in the Caribbean Sea, and they had bananas in the boat, and they believe that it somehow caused the boat to sink.
Well, okay then. This
So
is
never
legit. This is real.
Never take a banana on a fishing boat.
Leave your bananas at home, people.
But we caught a whole lot of fish. That was fun. We went to Denali the next day, and we didn't get to see all of Denali. Most people don't. I think 30% get to see the whole mountain. We saw little glimpses of it, but the train just takes you all across. We went from Seward to Anchorage to Denali to Fairbanks on the train, and it was just phenomenal. And we got to see moose and sheep and grizzly bears.
Isn't it crazy? What a big, beautiful world out there.
It's amazing.
We don't have any of that in West Tennessee.
I had never seen anything like it. So I was just mesmerized by the whole entire thing. We loved, when we went out west, we discovered huckleberry ice cream and huckleberry pie and
Is that the
huckleberry
brand?
everything. No, it's the fruit.
It's just the fruit itself.
It's like a blackberry. If a blackberry and a blueberry had a baby, maybe. But you can only get it in certain places. And we found huckleberry ice cream.
Well, how about that?
We ate it every night. I've gained 20 pounds in September. But it was phenomenal.
September's been a fun month, I tell you.
And we saw the Northern Lights one night.
Yeah, that's cool.
We wanted to do that. So, yeah.
I'm telling you, Angela's travel agency, if the, attorney world decides to crash and fall apart.
That may need to be my new
You
whatever.
totally could. You totally could.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one day. That would be fun.
That is so fun. All right. Anything else we want to talk about before we wrap this puppy up?
Well, we've got a whole lot more to say, but we're going to have to save it for another episode because we've got more things to talk about and catch people up on in life.
You mean people don't want to listen to a 3-hour podcast?
If you do, we'll keep going. Next week, we have got, I will say this, Fran, I brought you a surprise today. It's a book that was recommended to us by one of our listeners.
Okay.
And it has hit me square between the eyes like a 2x4.
The book that's sitting behind me? Yes. Okay. So if you're
grab that book.
Watching on YouTube.
This book, if you have any kind of control issues like I do, surely not. It's called The Cost of Control. When I tell y'all this book has rocked my world in the best of all ways, Sharon Hodde Miller is the author.
What else do we want to tell about her?
She's coming on our podcast.
Yes. Y'all, we haven't had a guest in a while, so we're about to hit a season where we have a few, and she's one of them.
We have decided that the guests that we have invited to come on are the voices that are just really changing our lives. They are speaking life-changing truth into us. And if you have not read any of her books, if you've not heard of her, if you don't know about this book, I'm telling y'all, The Cost of Control, it's amazing. And we're going to talk about it in October on the podcast.
I'm excited about that.
Yep.
Okay, guys. Well, hey, this was traveling rambling.
That's right.
Traveling, mission work, doing the Lord's thing, enjoying His creation. The creation says a lot about the Creator.
Doesn't it?
Somebody said that to me once because the context was we were talking about bugs. And I was like, well, okay.
Who let those mosquitoes on the ark?
But that's true. It just, whatever it is that you're looking at, it reflects the Creator.
All of creation points to the Creator.
And I just love that. So this is fun. This has been a fun episode. As always, guys, we appreciate you. If you have any travel questions, contact Angela Snyder.
Or if you've been somewhere fun that we need to go next, we're always looking for adventure.
Yes. And if you have questions about Whimsy or our message, we have 200 dolls here in the United States now.
What would be a good place for those dolls? Like if somebody's listening, like who needs those dolls?
Just contact me. Just contact me. We're hoping in our new church and in this new season we can take Whimsy on some mission trips. So
that would be amazing.
She's not done. It's just a new season. It's just something different.
New adventures for Whimsy.
Yes. Okay, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. We love you so much. Have a great week.
Thank y'all so much for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to scroll down and check out the show notes for the week. Have you subscribed to the podcast? You can also share this episode with a friend. Make sure that you do all these things so you never miss an episode. We release every Tuesday. We would love for you to join our Facebook group, follow us on Instagram, Pinterest, and also on our YouTube channel. All of those links are available in the show notes. Have a great week, everybody, and remember Proverbs 16:24. Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. We love y'all so much. Thank you for letting us serve you each week.